Welcome everybody to Dental Culture ConVOS.
Where the conversations are real, the topics are raw, and it's always relevant. I'm Carice Laguerre.
And I'm Chris Williams. Sit down and enjoy because this conversation includes you. Hey everybody, Chris and Carice here. We are embarking on a new journey, creating something very new. We hope that you guys are excited about it because we are. We have always had some really, really great conversations that you guys haven't been privy to. So we thought the natural thing would be for us to create a podcast. So here we are.
I know, who doesn't like to be a fly on the wall? I mean, there's a lot of things that I would love to sit in on. And I think these conversations are going to be quite interesting. We're going to touch on some topics and some things that most people don't really talk about. And I'm tired of sweeping everything under the rug. I think the more we have these conversations, the more we open up, the more we can really accomplish and we can become more connected.
Yes. And so, the thing that's beautiful to me about stuff like this is that my mind can't help but think about the beginning. Like, this is the beginning for this. We are just starting this. This is literally episode -1. So as we continue forward, I'm just excited to see how this blossoms and what this brings for not only us as the founders of the Dental Culture Con, but the industry at large. And hopefully it's valuable.
Absolutely. It better be valuable. Otherwise, there are other things I could be doing. But
Respectfully. So one of the things that we wanted to do on this first episode was actually share the real origin of the Dental Culture Con. Like, how can you start something without talking about the birth? So you want me to kick it off, or you want to?
I think we have two different versions of events. So I'm curious to hear yours.
Yes. Okay. Let's do it like that. Okay. We'll do POV me, POV you. Okay. Okay. So POV me. First off, I got to start off with us working at the same company, which was a marketing company. And I had been working there for a little over a year, going on 2. And Carice, how long had you been at the company at that point? Probably a year.
Less than.
I think you came a little after me, like maybe 6 months after me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was less than a year for sure.
Okay. So we find out that this company is selling. And because I was very close with leadership, I found out pretty early and started to kind of plan my exit. And so fast forward November of 2022. Yep. November 2022, I am out in this wild world as an entrepreneur, freelancer. Obviously I'm a dental hygienist, so I have the opportunity to still temp and work, but I was like fighting tooth and nail not to do that. So I still had some money coming in from speaking opportunities and a couple more checks. So I had some time to kind of think. And me and Carice started to have regular meetings. It was not only you, Carice, it was you, Carlos, and I still was meeting with Michelle regularly. And really the idea was just us bouncing ideas off each other, not necessarily Michelle, but me, you, and Carlos. The conversation I was having was, what's next? Like, what should we be doing? And I think all of us shared a similar sentiment of not wanting to go back into clinical dentistry. I think you were a lot more prepared because you're a myofunctional therapist. But for me and Carlos, it was like, we clawing at the bits to not have to go back in doing pro fees and perio maintenances and things, So me and Carice started really making traction on ideas and things that were actually feasible and made sense for us. I think I had talked to you about wanting to do some type of culmination of like Black entrepreneurs or Black speakers coming together and like being like this powerhouse group that was gonna, perform at events and do different motivational talks and teach and push the culture of dentistry forward in a different direction. But nothing was really solid. And then Carice had randomly came with this genius thought from our many conversations. And I'll let you jump in here because I don't know 100% I just remember that. I remember vividly. I remember actually the street that I was on when you sent me the voice note and I listened to it and you were like super excited and you were just dropped this. You were like, I got a genius idea. You just dropped it. And I'm like, oh, shoot. So I'll let you come in right here.
I need a support group because I have a lot of great ideas and then I always put them out there. And then sometimes I try to act on things and it's just a little too fast. But this was a great idea for sure. With the dental industry, it is pretty consistent that when you go to events, there is just something that feels just a little off. And the more I talked to people, the more I was understanding that it wasn't just me, that other people were experiencing periods of where you felt like you were marginalized in a room full of people who are your colleagues. These are professionals that went to school and know your struggle and can identify with your day to day, but still it just really didn't feel like you're in the fold. And so I was having these conversations with you because after one particular event, now that's dentistry, but I, as a myofunctional therapist, am in airway. And in airway, I feel like there's significantly less diversity, significantly more opportunities for me to stand out in a crowd of people in airway. And after one particular airway event in 2022, I was like in tears and I'm like, am I a crazy person? Like, I don't feel like anybody else understands what it is I'm trying to say. Mostly because I was talking to other airway people and they really didn't get it. But when I was talking to you about it, you're like, you're not crazy. Like, I will never forget that. I'm incredibly grateful for that moment where it was just like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is something. It is something that other people feel like these microaggressions. I'm okay. I'm not crazy. So that really talked me off the ledge. And it was a couple of months later that I wound up at another airway event and I'm feeling these same things. And I was like, we need something. We need something that's for us. We need something that's for the culture. Like, you were already having conversations about doing something similar. And I was like, we need to collaborate because this is, I feel it. I'm super passionate about it. Like, we need something where we could celebrate diversity, where it's not something that's just kind of evident, but nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Like, our conversations, those meetings that we were having and talking about these things, like when you approached me about this, like specifically, it just made so much sense because I remember vividly multiple times as I started to grow as a speaker and an influencer within dentistry, like every new room that I went in, I felt, like you said, marginalized. I felt like there was a lot that would go through my mind, honestly. I really thought about all of our other friends that looked like us and wanted the same things that we wanted that were not in these rooms. But beyond that, the crazy thing was going to dinners with people, right? And I'm talking about people who don't look like me, don't come from anywhere near where I come from, right? Or have had any similar experiences to me, but I appreciated still them for who they were, right? But it was interesting to me because I listened to them speak about other people in those rooms, and they were speaking about opportunities, right? And so these people looked like them, right? Looked like them, came from where they came from. And it was like moments where I'm sitting, enjoying my Ruth Chris steak. And I'm like, they're talking and I'm just sitting here like, I need to figure out a way to get my people to be around things like this. But it's interesting because it's such a simple question, right? Like, or a simple statement. How can I get more my people around things like this? Easy, just invite them to stuff like this, right? But it's a lot more difficult than you think, because everyone's working in their own capacities. Everybody's trying to chip away at, creating the legacy or getting into rooms their own way. And so sometimes I'm invited into a room from someone else, therefore I'm not in position to invite into this room, right? I was invited here, and it wasn't like +1. Here's bring a +1, right? It was like, nah, we're bringing you here.
Yeah.
So the next best thing is to create your own room and create your own spaces where you can be the person who is inviting. And so the Dental Culture Con, we want to invite our people, and then we want to invite other people from other cultures so they can be in the room, and then we extend them the opportunity to represent and invite their culture, their people, so that we can all learn from each other. So it's not a room of marginalized, marginalized, how would I say it? Marginalization?
Yes, you got it.
You know what I'm saying? But, and that's a beautiful thing, because you just need somebody who's going to consider everyone. That's it, And now we can't save everybody. We're not trying to save everybody, but for the people who are looking, and there's a lot of us out there who are looking for our representation in these rooms. They're looking for people who share similar stories in these rooms. But if you have a particular set of people who are only inviting their type of people in, and when we're invited in, but we don't have the power to invite, we don't have the power to always be on stage and really advocate and speak for everyone and get people here, it's frustrating at times. So I'm happy that we are creating this and having more of these conversations.
Yeah. And I think the vision at first was big. We were like, oh, we can have hundreds of people. This could be great. This could be fantastic. Big celebration. All of us together. We're opening up a platform for speakers who don't really get to speak other places. And that was big. We were really passionate about that. And we're just going to lift up everybody. So as many people as possible. What was our goal? Like 350?
No, 500 was the first goal.
500 people. And for our very first event, now that I look back, I'm like, wow, how naive.
Right. I think we knew that though, Carice, because we spoke about that. We said we know that this goal is pretty big, because we have friends who have meetings and stuff. So we spoke to them and they were like, 500 is a lot, especially for your first event. But for us, you know how you tell a kid like they can't do something.
Yep.
Like, don't do that because it ain't gonna be what you think. And you like, but you already got this burning desire to do it. So you have to see it through. Like, otherwise, in the back of your mind, you'll always feel like that person dictated what you did, which was you going against what you wanted. Right. So it's better for you to kind of, even though you got the advisement, you're like, I still need to see this through. Because what if we actually filled out a 500 person event, right? And sold out of tickets. And then we're like, yeah, and you told us not to. think of how good that would have felt, right? Versus, yeah, okay, you're right. Maybe we should bring it down a little bit. Like, I would rather the other, right? I would rather take the chance on myself, take the chance on us.
So very true, very true. And we did, and we aimed high. The Legacy Center was something you found, and we were going full force with Legacy Center, Atlanta, 500 people. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the weekend of Juneteenth. Like, it was just like everything.
Perfect.
Just coming together.
And we got to paint this out because people just need to understand the vision here. Just real quick, and I'm going to take a lot of time. All right. The Legacy Center here in Atlanta is like this giant building that is painted all black. It has beautiful gold letters on the front that says Legacy Center. When you come in, you're greeted with this wall of all these Black founders that helped to fund this. It was called the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, where they all invested in creating this building. And they had a nice little coffee area. The office spaces were decked out, and they had names on every room that were significant Black pioneers throughout history. So you got like Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. So you have, all these types of names. And then they had the, what would it be, like the auditorium type area where we would have had the stage and all the things. And it was like a massive space, and it was separated into two. So you had one side that could have been for vendors, the other side where we could have the stage and all the seating. There was like this ramp area where you could like take photos, like professional photos and things like that. It was just so perfect. But at the time, we were a beginning conference, and we were very optimistic about sponsorships and what we could get. And so we hit the ground, reaching out to people, and little did we know we were a little too late for some companies. Also, a lot of people in the industry were starting to get burned out from events, so we were getting pushed back, from potential sponsors who we know are big supporters of us individually as entrepreneurs in the space. They were just a little hesitant about investing, lots of money. And we did have some pretty high packages as well.
Very high.
But that was congruent with the type of space that we were trying to get. Exactly. So it was an expensive and lofty space where we're going to be basically taking up the whole building, the whole compound. But we didn't end up getting the sponsorship dollars that we hoped to get. And we were cutting it close to the wire. And so we naturally started making shifts and pivots. But it was like little by little.
Very, very much so. And the biggest pivot was going virtual. And virtual felt like the move, but we did virtual in a way that not everybody's doing virtual. We still had a space that we got in Atlanta, so we were able to stream live from there. Some of our speakers came out. We had Hazel Glasper, Carlos, and we had
Lauren, Naomi. We had Lauren, but she came in virtually.
Yeah, Naomi came in, and those three spoke live. So from in the studio presenting live, it was such an experience. I can't even tell you. I wish everybody got to do live in that type of manner, because we still had the love and support in the room. So everybody in that room was all about CultureCon and its growth and its continuation. And the space there allowed for a lot of vulnerability. We had phenomenal talks and opening up of Hazel Glasper, Naomi, even Carlos. Everybody got deep. We were able to get raw. And that felt so good. I can't even describe the feeling of it, which is why this time I don't think I would ever do virtual again, because that in person
Calm down.
aspect of it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Like we shared comments and conversation about that because being there in that space and seeing it come together the way it did, especially after all the stress of us having to pivot, because a pivot sounds really like that word pivot, just it's so quick, like you just pivoting. No. The pivot was a pivot because you think we were already in contractual conversations with the other event space and already had put money into that. So us switching to a totally virtual event and then putting, money into that now. And mind you, we looked at a few other spaces before we actually found that one. But the feeling that Carice is struggling to speak about was like, it was a jumble of different emotions. It was a sigh of relief, a feeling of it ain't over yet. We're still in it right now. We still have to pull this off. It was definitely emotional looking at the people who did show up for our event, especially after all the stress. When you're going through those moments, it almost, you have two minds. You have one mind that's optimistic and the other mind that's pessimistic. It's kind of thinking of the worst things like, dang, what if nobody shows up? What if people don't log on? Like, what if we have an issue with our stream and people can't hear our speakers? And, like there was so much, but thankfully we had Chris Carson, who is an amazing videographer and very well known in our space, he handled all of our streaming needs, all the video, the lighting, everything was taken care of. And it was literally just him. And we were able to not be concerned about anything, even facilitating and helping us get the speakers who weren't in studio live, right on time, running the commercials, giving us our countdowns. Like, it was a beautiful and masterful way to host an event. And that's why I said calm down, because I love that virtual event so much that I'm like, I would love to do that again in some capacity, because I just thought it was really cool.
Possibly. I don't know. The in-person aspect of it, though, is what I'm looking forward to when it comes to 2025 and, Dental Culture Con. And I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit. But
shameless plug, of course, on our own podcast.
But I think that really set the tone and it set the stage for what it was. Every speaker was super vulnerable. I mean, from Glenn Vo talking about him growing up and microaggressions and marginalization he felt, to, Lauren King being very vulnerable with her story and being very personable, which is why we had to bring her back. I mean, she just wowed everybody. There was so many aspects to it that were just so powerful that I think being in person to really connect is the key.
Right. Absolutely. And, the whole idea around the Dental Culture Con and kind of what we're standing for is just having more conversations about or sharing the stories that we all experience. Like Glenn Vo, he talked about his upbringing and him coming from another country, and through that finding his triangle of genius. And I thought it was such a great way to show how each individual person's journey teaches them the tools needed to kind of thrive in the world the way they need to, but then also adding this human component to the conversation where it's like, it's not all success and glitz and glam. It's struggle. It's doubt. There's, a community of people who help you. There are simple statements from the right person, or even sometimes somebody who is not the right person, right? But they say something to you that that ignites something within you and changes the trajectory of your life. And I feel like having more conversations like that helps us to really grow in the ways that we want to. And a lot of times it requires us to get out of our comfort zones and be in places where there are people who are not like us. Right. And so I think when we first started talking about creating the Dental Culture Con, we had a lot of confusion around our event where people thought this was a Black event because they see 2 Black owners. Right. They're like, oh, I thought this was, you talk about diversity and, we thought it was like a black thing. It's like, no, see, this is what we got to change in this space. OK, diversity does not mean gathering people who look just like you. Right. And it's only y'all and it's exclusive. Right. And it's just it's a Blacks only club. Like, no, that's not what diversity is, So we're really trying to change that dynamic when people discuss diversity. I feel like it feels that way nowadays. Like only Black people really talk about diversity like that, like really hard, where we're going hard because we're always having to advocate for more difference in spaces. But that's not what this is. We want everyone in a space. I think, let me get off my soapbox here because I start getting real. I just hate that. I hate that. I hate when people try to like minimize the bigger picture when you're saying it. Like we're saying diversity, we're showing other people. We're talking about LGBTQIA. We're talking about different religions. We're talking about different cultures. So where did you see us say that this was a Black event? Stop it.
Yeah, I get you. I get you entirely. And I could see where the messaging gets kind of confusing. But for some, and that's part of why we have this podcast platform too now, because now we can really put a voice to what this is and clear up any sort of confusion. But I think when it comes to dentistry, it really is pervasive in all aspects of it. If you're a practice owner, you need to be culturally aware, culturally sensitive. You need to have opportunities for your team. Even if you're an associate and you work in a practice, if you're anybody who works in a practice and you serve a community, you are going to be exposed to, whether it's your team or even if your team is all of a similar culture to you, it's going to be the community where you will have exposure to other people. I think it's incredibly important to talk about diversity in all of its facets and all of its aspects, because we don't want anybody, as healthcare professionals and people who serve the public, we don't want anybody to ever walk into our op in any capacity, our office, our op, and feel like they are not welcome there.
100%. 100%. And our mission is real simple here. And I hope that our conversations continue to expand on that. We don't have to harp on it, so heavily. Just stay plugged in and tapped into the conversations, because we're talking about people like you. We're talking about people like me and every type of person who is drawing breath on this earth. So we're excited to be creating this platform for this, and excited for the different voices that you'll hear on this podcast and different faces if we're going to do a visual element to this. But stay tuned for these conversations.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. There's a lot to come, and it's really us establishing a great way for us to have conversations around this outside of what's typical. So typical diversity, equity, inclusion conversations happen on a stage where you have a speaker who is lecturing to you. It's like a one-way conversation. I think this is a phenomenal way to kind of break down those walls and establish two-way conversations where everybody has a voice in this, where you can really feel represented.
Yes, 100%. Next episodes, look forward to hearing more personal stories about our journey, about us and who we are, where we come from. And it's kind of the premise of what you should expect when we have guests on, when we're sharing these stories. Like, we want to know who you are. We don't want to know just the highlight reel, right? There will be some of the highlight reel shown, but we want the vulnerability. We want the curtain to be pulled back, right? That's kind of what we're looking to have when these conversations come out. And so in our next couple of episodes, we'll be sharing a little bit more intimate details about our personal journeys into dentistry. That'll kind of bridge the stories that you hear about us throughout our industry professional journey.
Absolutely. And then you'll also get to learn more about some of the fabulous people we'll have on stage for the Dental Culture Con event in February 7th and 8th in Miami, 2025. Shameless plug alert.
2025.
We will absolutely, I think, be diving into all of the amazing people who are going to be taking the stage, and you can just learn more about what you can anticipate and how alike we are, though you'll find our lineup is very diverse, but so many similarities and parallels exist. And I think that's what this is all about. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.
All right, we'll see y'all next time. Stay cultured.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Dental Culture ConVOS. We hope something resonated with you.
And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the culture. Your voice matters, and together we can make an impact. So until next time, stay cultured.